player at this point, because he has so many Zerglings, and because he does have a little bit of an economic advantage, which is mitigated by the fact that you do have the same amount of SCVs. This should be a planetary fortress. That would really help you. And then you can use SCVs to repair it. You have plenty of energy on these orbital commands to either scan or to use mules and get supplemental income. I do not believe you're going to be able to hold this many Zerglings off. Infestors. Zerg player does not need 11 Infestors. 11 Infestors is a ton. If you are going to go that Infestor heavy, what I suggest you do is get Burrow, which you have, and then you can burrow over towards his base. He doesn't have a missile turret up front to see any burrowed things creeping into his base. And then you could spawn a bunch of infested Terrans. And you can spawn a lot of infested Terrans, which are actually really, really good, simply because you have 11 of them. You could spawn a bunch of infested Terrans, and then have another one jump up in fungal growth. That way they can't run away. And you could kill their entire army simply with infested Terrans from this Infestor right now. Probably one of the reasons people are saying Infestors are OP. If you look at the drone count, the drone counts are actually higher for the Terran player than the Zerg player, who is on 5 bases. Now, the Zerg player is only taking his 4th and 5th as I say this. He's doing a very good job on his creep. He's not being aggressive enough, but he is scanning, and he has stopped the Terran player from taking his 3rd, which would really help the Terran player at this point, along with the army, simply because the army differential is growing exponentially at this point. You're both floating a lot of minerals, especially the Terran player needs to be more active with these in this case, simply because he does not have the 3rd base active yet. You can create a planetary fortress, and it would be very good here. Like I was back to this, what I was talking about is you're going to have a high yield base. You do not need 24 workers for a high yield base, simply because there are only 6 patches, 3 workers per patch, 18. What you should do is just transfer a lot of your drones over to your high yield as soon as you get it, because high yield gives you more income, and it's easily defendable because you have creep all around it. Here you have plenty of drones. This base is completely, well, not quite completely, but it's very saturated, but you only have 3 mineral patches left. You should be transferring these drones over to this 3rd base. That's going to be hurting your income right now. Your income is much, much lower than the Terran players right now. The Terran player over here has the same issue. You should move some of these to your 3rd base here, and you should not be making an orbital command. You should be making this a planetary fortress, just because it is in a hard to defend position. Planetary fortresses are very good. You could, even if you wanted to be even more evil, you could put bunkers or engineering bays just around the edges, just to prevent Zerglings from attacking it. You need to keep pumping out. You should be pumping out lots of Marines, which you are. Unfortunately, Marines aren't very good in this instance against Infestors, if he decides to use these Infestors. Otherwise, if you're getting these Infestors, for what reason are you getting them? Again, the high yield is now ready. You need to be transferring some of these drones over to the high yield. You should also maybe transfer your drones over here or to here. The Zerg player definitely has the army advantage by far at this point. The Zerg player is definitely playing a macro. Look at how many corruptors he has. If you do choose to attack, oh, you got battle cruisers, which are so good against light units, but are so terrible against these corruptors that the Zerg player has. He can just use corruption, and they actually do bonus damage against massive. So that's going to be really hurt those battle cruisers, which are so expensive here. You could be pumping out lots and lots of Marines. I don't even have this menu up. I'm sorry, guys. You can have so many Marines with this many minerals. You can have a ton of Marines. Now, look at this creep spread. It's nearly into the Terran player's base. I suggest, especially in a game that goes this long against a Zerg player, that you get, and these I don't think you're going to use it, but sniping would be absolutely phenomenal against Zerg. You will one-shot these Zerglings with snipe. Let's look at the upgrades. We have 2 upgrades over here, and we have no upgrades on the tanks. We do have 1-1. So you are behind on the upgrades and the army size as well, and the food count by quite a bit. The Zerg player is opting to macro. He's playing a very safe route here. I'm surprised that the Zerg hasn't poked here yet again to stop this expo. The Zerg player really should be denying the Expos, even though he is on 5 bases. Let's go back to the unit counting station. The Zerg player still only has 46 drones, whereas the Terran player has 60, which is perfect. You don't want any more drones, Terran player. You do want to take another base. I would suggest that you take this base right here and lay a planetary fortress. I usually would put your 3rd and 4th maybe as planetary fortresses, simply because the 3rd and 4th tend to be very hard to defend. It looks like the Zerg player is going to go ahead and move out here. This is going to be very hard for the Terran player to stop. Does the Zerg player have... Ooh, Brood Lords are going to be even harder. What you need to do is you need to get Vikings to stop these Brood Lords, which you do not have, unfortunately. Viking and Medivac is what I would opt for over Battlecruiser. I very rarely, if ever, get Battlecruiser, simply because if you do lose them, it is such an investment. Whereas a reactor can, on a starport, can pump out Medivacs and Vikings. That's extremely good. The Zerg player should be much more aggressive. He is far ahead. He should opt to take this. Let's see what you're doing with these workers here. This is a good idea. Hopefully he doesn't see it, which he is going to see it with his Overlord here. But yes, you could have flown over the command center as well. He's going to send forth his infestors. Can you see them? You cannot see the oh, will he use the infestors? He is going to use the infestors, and this is going to hurt your army. This is going to hurt your army a lot. If he's going to go to your mineral line and use it. It's going to hurt your army still, just using it there. Look at how many infested Terrans he's spawning out. I believe this is the beginning of the end for the Terran player. You moved all of your SCVs off of these open mineral patches. This is going to be the end of the end. This many Zerglings and this many Corruptors, you're not going to be able to hold this off. Brood Lords just crush everything you have here too. Are you going to snipe? You could snipe those Brood Lords. You could snipe those. You could EMP. You could have EMP'd those Infestors if you had seen them. And they would have no energy. Yes, these Corruptors are going to tear these Battlecruisers apart. This is going to be a GG right here in Game 2. Looks like Ken has taken the series 2-0. We'll see if I can't convince these guys to play the 3rd game anyways. Both players, you did a pretty... You did a good job. I'd say you need to take your 3rd and your 4th a lot faster. We are in a 25-minute game. We're a little bit behind on upgrades, unfortunately. The Zerg player could have been a lot more aggressive a lot earlier in this game. And the Zerg player needs to make more drones. He's only at 46 at the end of the game. That being said, the Terran player, planetary fortresses are very good. If you get under attack, you pull all your drones and you just repair it. And you need to have a little bit more of an army. It looked like you didn't have out as much army as you could have later in the game. You could have definitely had close to 200, and you would have had a much stronger chance to win this game. These Broodlords are just so strong. That's the 2nd game of the series. We'll see, and that is the last game because the Zerg player did win. We'll see if I can't convince them to have another go at this. This is Alpha Nuts. Hope you enjoyed this cast. Hopefully it was informative for both you players. Ben, I really do. I think that you've got plenty of room to improve, and I think you can get a lot better at this game if you planetary fortresses and things, just a little bit more of game sense. Zerg player as well, just you need to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more scouting. Deny those expos while you expo. That's what I do as a Zerg. Works out pretty well. Alright, this is me signing off of Game 2.